this committee, which really was a committee that then developed 8 subcommittees that looked at 8 different regions on campus that would have to make determinations on what would have to happen within their responsibility in order to safely bring faculty, staff, administrators, and students back to campus. And those subcommittees were developing plans that were then being overseen by the Fall Planning Coordination Committee and then ultimately put into action. So we had the Fall Planning Coordination team, which also had to develop a plan that was submitted to New York State in order for us to then open back up for business. And you might remember during the summer, as Siena College was making this decision, other colleges and universities across the country were doing the same thing. And some colleges very early on decided, we're just not going to try, right? You know, Harvard was one of the first institutions that said all of our classes are going to be done remotely in the fall. And that was a decision that they made in early July. And some other colleges and institutions followed suit. It was a discussion that Siena had, but ultimately it was decided that core to Siena's mission is the in-person education, is the community aspect of being here. And if there's a way that we can do that, protecting for the safety of our community, faculty, students, and staff, then we owe it to our students to make every effort possible to do that. So really very early on, those were our intentions. But what followed next was countless hours of planning and preparation that went into developing our plan, and then ultimately the execution that followed. The planning, the preparation, and then constant communication with the different constituency groups. And of course, in working in communications, I played a role in that piece of it. And those were the town halls that President Gibson had with returning students and incoming students and their parents, and with alumni, and bi-weekly town halls that he also ran with the staff and faculty. So Fall Planning Coordination team was a big part of it. And before I jump into the Ops Center, which is now kind of our clearinghouse for managing COVID-related issues on campus, you know, I will note that it was wonderful to see it all come together. So students returned, and some of you probably know that our academic calendar for the fall semester was also adjusted because of the pandemic. So classes began 15 days earlier than they otherwise would have, where typically the first day of class would be the Tuesday after Labor Day. We started 2 Mondays ago, and collapsed the fall semester by 1 week. So it'll be 14 weeks worth of instruction instead of 15. Having classes on Labor Day, working through the fall break, and the last day of finals will be the Wednesday before Thanksgiving. Then the students will be off campus through the holidays, and there is discussion underway right now as to when to resume classes for the beginning of the spring term. But I will note that I had a chance to talk to some students and faculty over the past few days. I teach, in addition to working in marketing and communications, and I'm teaching a couple of classes this semester. And the students are, number one, so appreciative of the opportunity to be on campus. I talked to a couple of students who said, you know, my friends back home, wherever back home might be, they're not in class right now, either because their institution made the decision very early on that it wasn't worth it to them, that they weren't going to try, or they did try in some cases. And you've certainly heard these stories, I'm sure, because they've been all over the news, and the ones getting a lot of attention right now is SUNY Oneonta, where they did try and they failed very early on, where there was an outbreak on campus and the number hit this certain threshold where they no longer could control it, and they sent the students home. And so our students have said, we're so appreciative that we have the chance to be here, and we don't want to blow it, right? I mean, in some respects, we're at the mercy of the pandemic. We obviously can't control everything, no matter what protocols we put into place. But there's a lot that we can control. And if our students are doing the right thing with respect to wearing masks and observing social distancing, avoiding large gatherings, that's going to help. And from what we've seen from the students, from what we've heard from public safety, and just from what I've witnessed and gleaned from talking to students, they recognize that it's special that they have this opportunity, that the college has done what the college has done to provide this chance for them. And it's really great to see that they're doing the right things. and we were in a situation where we could execute on that better than a lot of other colleges probably could as well, because of smaller classrooms, because of the manageable size of the student population, because we are in the Northeast, where thankfully the numbers have been down, because we have a student population that's largely from this part of the country, and we had the means and the opportunity to be able to put students into quarantine that came from high-risk states. So if we go back a little bit further than 2 weeks ago, the first week of class, any students that were traveling either from overseas or from those high-risk states were put into a mandatory quarantine on campus. We had a few that were able to quarantine with friends or family off campus, but the majority were here on campus for 14 days and then were tested when they were let out of quarantine, and all of those tests came back negative. And I can talk a little bit about our testing policy, what we've done and what we're going to continue to do moving forward if you'd like. So that was kind of the picture on campus so far. But again, we start with our fall planning coordination team to put our policies in place. We submitted our marching forward plan to the state. We created a marching forward webpage on our website, which breaks down for the students health and safety, academics, on-campus living, student life and athletics, dining, visitor policy, all the different ways that the campus has adjusted to our new normal. And there are details there, not only for students and faculty, but that's on our public outward-facing website as well, that anyone could read. So that was kind of what it required to get students to campus. And now that they're here, we have developed what we call the Siena College Coronavirus Ops Center. And this was President Gibson's idea and his strategy for it, and the methodology actually he borrowed from his time in the service. And the way he envisioned it was he wanted to almost have a coronavirus hotline, right? Where there could be one place where if you've got a question about COVID-19, whether it's policies related to how we're handling the pandemic, whether it's a question over testing, whether you have symptoms and you wonder what you should do next, though there are other places on campus that manage different pieces of that, you can go to the Ops Center first and get the information that you need and be put in contact with the correct person. So we have an Ops Center team. It's a hotline in the sense that there is a phone number and an email address where any questions, concerns, comments, suggestions can go directly to the Ops Center via the phone number or the email address. It's also a clearinghouse in a sense where any information related to COVID-19 on campus is then being funneled to the Ops Center. So we have someone who is recording anytime somebody goes to health services because they want to get tested because they feel like they might have symptoms. If a student is doing a good job policing their classmates and they hear of a party or they saw some students gathering in an unsafe way, they can anonymously report that to the Ops Center, and that's being recorded as well. So we have a daily log of anything related to COVID-19. Some of it's confidential, but some of it's not, and what's not is being reported through the Ops Center to our community, whether that's students, faculty, staff, administrators, and sometimes our parents as well. The Ops Center is responsible for producing daily updates that go into our daily digest for faculty, staff, administrators, and also for students, which indicates if there is a positive case of COVID-19 on campus, which so far there hasn't been. It details testing results, and it also updates daily the amount of testing and positive cases, both in Albany County and also in New York State, and other information that the Ops team deems relevant also goes out in those daily reports in the daily digest. There are also updates to the Marching Forward page. And then lastly, and be happy to open it up to questions, just this week, the Ops Center launched our dashboard. So the dashboard is public facing. It's also on our Marching Forward webpage, and the dashboard details the amount of testing that has been done on campus dating back to August 10th. And week by week, it will reflect both in the number and then through a chart visually as well, how many tests have been done, certainly what the results of those tests are. But again, they've all been negative to this point. The breakdown between employees and students who have been tested and how many students or employees are in isolation or quarantine. And right now those numbers are zeroed out. So a lot of really positive news right now on campus related to COVID-19, both in the fact that the semester is up and running and also that testing results have all been negative to this point. So, any questions?
And I would say if you have a question, everybody, you can put it in the chat, or since we have a little bit smaller group, you're welcome to also unmute and ask the question yourself. Question from Frank. Hi, Frank. Are all students and staff tested, oops, lost that, on a regular schedule? Where is that done? How long to get results? And how much do the tests cost? So a few things there, Kelly.
Yeah, great. Thank you very much, Frank, for asking that question. And they're all great questions. So a few things. One, all students who came, as I mentioned, internationally or from those states at risk were required to be tested when they came out of quarantine, and those were 90 some odd tests, and they all came back negative. Every other student was highly encouraged by President Gibson, and he made this plea in several town halls leading up to move-in day. We're encouraged to be tested within 14 days before arriving on campus and providing those tests. And there's 385 students who reported negative tests before arriving on campus. In addition, all students, whether they had those test results or not, did have to undergo a health screening check when they arrived on campus for move-in day. All employees before arriving on campus every day have an employee health screening that they must fill out. It's 4 questions. For example, have you been in contact with anyone who was tested positive for COVID-19? And if you check no to all 4 questions, then you can proceed to campus. There are 2 entry points right now on campus for employees and students to gain entry, and you must swipe in with your card. So it's a kind of 2-layer system where you have to check no, and then you must be able to provide identification to get onto campus. If you do check yes, you're told to stay off campus, and you're contacted by human resources, and you go through the next steps, which ultimately would be getting tested. Students have a different health screening that they also must go through or must complete every morning before they can attend class. And same thing, they get like a smiley face or a frowny face depending on the information that they input. And if they get the frowny face, then it's stay in your room and contact health services and go through the policy and the procedures to ultimately get tested. A couple other layers to it, and I'll get to the diagnostic testing. All employees have been encouraged to get their own testing done, which can be done free of charge through New York State. And it was just communicated to them a few days ago exactly where to go and what to fill out in order to accomplish that, and those results as they come in. And if it's voluntary testing, the results, if they're negative, do not have to be reported to the college. Of course, if the result is positive, it goes to the Albany County Department of Health, and then Siena is notified and would begin the process, though the Albany County Department of Health takes the lead on contact tracing, right? So if there's a positive case on campus, we will know about it. If somebody seeks voluntary testing, we're asking them to provide us those results if they'd like, so we can include it in our report out through the Op Center, but they don't have to. And then there's our surveillance testing. So that actually just started this week. The first session of surveillance testing was yesterday. In fact, there were 16 employees and there were 60 students who were tested. They were chosen at random. Our Office of Institutional Effectiveness created the methodology for how the sample of students and employees would be chosen. It is mandatory that we have some employees who are working off campus remotely. So depending on their schedule, they don't have to come to campus. In fact, they wouldn't have even been included in the sample if that's the case. But if a student is selected, then they do have to participate. What that works out to, the 16 employees and the 60 students, is about 2% of all employees and about 2% of the student population. We expect to get those results back actually later today, in which case we'll put them into our Op Center updates in the digest tomorrow. And for now, we plan on continuing with the 2% surveillance testing every other week. So a new session every week. If you were tested in the first session, then you wouldn't be eligible to have your name called again in the next session. And there is some discussion of increasing that to weekly surveillance testing instead of bi-weekly, but wanted to at least get a little bit of footing and get the process moving a little bit and have a sense of how it works and what the turnaround is going to be before we went to weekly. But they said that with the session with the testing happening on Thursday, the latest we would have the results would be Monday, but there's a good chance that we have them sooner than that. So I think I hit on all those points, but if not, let me know.
Another testing question, staying with that, Kelly. Off-site testing data, is that included in current numbers? Many students had these tests prior to coming, didn't report them to school.
Correct, exactly. So if it's a negative test and they don't report it themselves, then we're not going to know about it. So that's why we're encouraging them to report, just because, you know, our data is a little bit more wholesome, the more figures that we have, but certainly there have been plenty of negative tests that we're just not privy to that information.
Thank you. Question on instruction. Is there a combination of in-person and online academics, which we know there is? So maybe you could just elaborate on that, Kelly?
Yeah, absolutely. Happy to. So all students and all faculty had the option to be fully remote this semester if that's what they chose to do. So even though we decided as an institution that we wanted to move ahead if we were able to, and obviously we are, with in-class instruction, if somebody didn't feel comfortable, didn't want to be on campus, and that was just a personal decision, that's fine. There was a process in place in which they would be cleared to remain a full-time student and do all of their coursework remotely from their home. And again, same with faculty. They had the opportunity to come to their own determination as to whether or not they wanted to teach in the classroom or remotely this semester. So there were de-densification restrictions that the college, and this came from the state, as far as what the capacity could be in a classroom, what the bubble would be around each student. So some of our instructional decisions were based off of that. So pretty much each classroom is at about a 50% capacity to what its normal classroom size would be. And then the desks obviously are spaced apart. We have about a 3-foot bubble around every student. And by the way, all faculty are creating a seating chart, which isn't typical policy, and students are asked to stay in the same seat every single class. Those seating charts are on file in academic affairs. So should a student test positive, then for contract testing purposes, we know exactly who they may have come in contact with. So some classes are fully in person, as you would expect. The difference is what the college did this summer was put about 68 cameras in classrooms that otherwise hadn't been there before. So it's a camera that's now in the back of the classroom. There are 2 different types. One's on a remote control. The other one is voice activated, where actually you can follow the speaker's voice during a lecture. And so every class, not only does this provide lecture capture capability, where faculty now have the opportunity to record their lectures and save them, send them to students, whatever it might be. And that was something that the college had hoped to make an investment on at some point in the future. And this just kind of accelerated that process. So now we have these 68 classrooms outfitted with this technology, which is a pretty Herculean effort to pull off the amount of time that they did. So between ITS and facilities and everybody that made that happen, it was really impressive. But with the cameras in the classroom, those students who had elected to learn from home for the semester can now log into Zoom and watch the lecture remotely. I was telling Mary Beth before we started that I'm teaching a class this semester that has 22 students, but the classroom that I'm in, through density limitations, can only hold 11 students plus a faculty member. And it's a weekly Monday night course. So what I did is in my syllabus, I created a green team and a gold team. So if you're on the green team, then you're in class on day 1, and then week 3, week 5, week 7, and vice versa if you're on the gold team. So when you are on your remote day, then whether you're at home or whether you're in your classroom, you're logging onto your laptop and you're watching the lecture via Zoom. So I've got 11 students in front of me. I've got 11 on Zoom, and I'll put their screen just, like we've got it represented here. I've got the checkerboard of their faces up on the screen behind me, and I can interact with them in the same way I interact with the students. If I ask a question, I'll look to the students I have in the classroom, and I'll turn around and look to the screen and see if there are any questions or comments. So sure, it gets a little bit tricky in lab courses, and faculty that are teaching lab classes are making different accommodations. But by and large, what I've heard so far is it seems to be working out okay.
Great. Kelly, thanks. Very comprehensive answer. Another question on testing. If a student tests positive, what happens next?
Student test positive, ideally, we're going to get them off campus. So, the first thing they'll find out from the testing center, we're using a lab in New Jersey, and we will find out almost at the same time they do. The lab will provide them with the results. It's going to provide us with the results. So we will make contact with them through health services. And if it's a student, the point of contact is health services. If it's an employee, then it's human resources. Health services will make contact, and we will find out if they have the ability to get home and isolate, right? So what are their specific circumstances at home? Where is home, right? We want to make sure that they have somebody who might be immunocompromised in their family. Maybe it makes sense if they don't isolate at home, or if it's an international student or they live on the other side of the country, and getting them off campus presents more challenges or more risk, then we will keep them on campus. And we have both isolation rooms and quarantine rooms on campus if we need to use them. But again, the first priority is to get them off campus if it's safe and we're able to do so.
Thank you. Can you talk a little bit, Kelly, about cleaning and sanitizing procedures in the classrooms after classes?
Yeah, absolutely. So obviously, as you can imagine, we have heightened and enhanced cleaning protocols that facilities have taken the lead on. And so we have, our custodial staff that number one, it has been enhanced. And then number two, they are going through high touch areas, as we call them, more frequently than they would in the past, and doing a deeper cleaning than they would in the past. So that's one piece of it. A second piece is that there is cleaning equipment in every classroom, and students have been instructed, and faculty reminded students as well, that when you get into the classroom, you should take personal responsibility to get the wipes, get the spray, clean off your area, and then after class, do the same thing. And there's also built-in time in between classes, more so than usual, to accommodate for that. So, instruction time isn't lost when following those cleaning procedures.
Great, thank you. Looks like we've made our way through all the questions in the chat. Great questions, everybody. Yeah. Any other ones bubbling up for?
Yeah, Kelly and Mary Beth, can I ask a question? All the prep work involved in this and all of the work needed to keep it maintained into the future, God knows how long that is, has got to be pretty expensive. Where does the money come to cover all of this?
Yeah, and even just the money that went into putting the cameras in the classroom. And again, we are certain that that's going to pay dividends down the line, and it's something the college wanted to invest in the future anyways, but it was an expense that we didn't expect right away. One thing I can tell you is the college is in a better financial position because we have the students on campus, because we are collecting room and board from students now where other colleges aren't. So that's a win. And then two, we're coming off of our highest enrolled freshman class in college history. And to be honest, we expected, in the industry, we call that melt. So you have a certain number on May 1 that ended up being June 1 this year because we extended the deposit deadline by 1 month. Excuse me. You hit a certain number and then you expect it to meld a little bit over the summer. As students make the decision, they might go somewhere else. They might decide to take a gap year, whatever it might be. And we thought the melt would be a little bit higher this year because of COVID. And it was a little bit, but it wasn't what we had budgeted for. And so because we were so far over our enrollment target this year by more than 100 students, we actually banked cash that was able to be used for these purposes. So you don't want to make it sound like it's a wonderful, rosy financial picture, because it isn't for any institution right now, anywhere in the country. That's just the reality. But the truth is, Siena is in a much stronger position than most of our peer institutions.
And I'll just add a little bit from our side in development and external affairs. We do have a fund now that's been established, the COVID Emergency Health and Safety Fund, to help offset some of those costs, current and ongoing. And as usual with our tremendous alumni and parents, There have been donations to that fund that will continue to stay open. One of our upcoming events, and this wasn't planned, so thank you for the question, Frank, but it's a good opportunity to share. As most of you know, we've been doing many virtual events since we have been home during this pandemic, and we have, and Diane, I might ask you to unmute if you want to add to this, but this year, because we can't gather in person for Festivino, we have a little bit of an alternative, if you will. It's the St. Francis celebration, and that proceeds from that event will go to the COVID Health and Safety Emergency Fund. Diane, do you want to just add a little bit about that?
Some, I know e-blasts have gone out to alumni and parents, asking people if they would like to join as either a sponsor or honorary committee, or you can just, as the same price as it would be for Festivino ticket, we're giving, for that price, you get 2 restaurant gift certificates and 2 small bottles of wine. So you do get benefits with that. And if you haven't received the e-blast and you would like to learn more about it, you can contact special events at siena.edu. And so far, we're doing really well with the donations that are coming in. So we're hoping, our goal is to net 75,000, and we're actually getting close to that. So hopefully, and then also people can, on the Friars web Facebook page, there is a mass on October 4th that they can join in on virtually. So.
Great, thanks, Diane. Comment in the chat from Teresa. I have a sophomore and senior on campus. They are thrilled to be back on campus and have only positive things to say about the changes which have been made. Thank you. And thank you for sharing that, Teresa.
Great,
We love to
thank
hear
you.
that. And thank you for being on the call.
Mary Beth and Kelly, this is Kathy Forth. I'd like to second that as well. My student daughter is thrilled to be back, and so are the kids around her. And I think they understand how important it is for them to be complying with what's required. However, one comment, I think the plan, as I read it, is very comprehensive. You guys have done a Herculean job and are to be congratulated. But the implementation in some cases is not real consistent, and it's confusing some of the students as well as parents that I follow on the parents' Facebook page, particularly in regards to parents' interaction with students and visitation on campus. The parents report very different experiences as they come through the front gate. Some are told they are allowed to come in without an invitation from the college and no previous processing, but they have to stay in their car. Or they can come in, but they have to meet their student at Siena Hall. Or they can come in, but only into their student's dorm, but then they can go into their student's dorm. Each of these was an example given by different parents on the parents' Facebook page, and parents are confused. Second part of that, not all parents, including myself, are getting any of the parent communication, including the newsletter that I know exists, but a lot of parents comment about things that they heard through emails they got, like the invitation to the summer town hall, and many other parents never got it. So I think getting a consistent implementation would help, especially as we try to correct our students saying, hey, we read that this is the thing and you need to be following it. They're like, but that's not what people are doing. And just help us out here if you can.
Yeah, no, thanks for bringing those points up, and I'll address them both. So the first, when it comes to visitation, the policy as it's written is that parents should reach out to public safety before coming onto campus, and then once approved, then let the public safety officer at the welcome booth know, and then they'd be directed from there. Now, that doesn't mean that there isn't some confusion among the different public safety officers, and maybe they're not all speaking the same language, and that's what it sounds like. And I can certainly mention something to our director of public safety and just let them know that there is some concern from the parents about that. So I just wanted to be clear, that's what the policy is, and we can figure out where the breakdown, might be coming from.
Yeah, I think it's an implementation issue. It's not a policy. The policy
Right.
is not great. And,
Yep.
and I think they'd be very, very helpful. I think the other confusing thing to students is, when can they go off campus? There are mandates, there are guidelines, but there's a shuttle bus and they can go to the mall. And so what does that mean? And, how is it different going to the mall than meeting up with other students and other small groups so they're confused.
Yeah, no, understandably so, of course. I mean, and leaving campus is meant to be essential reasons to be off campus, but what does that mean? And of course, there is some flexibility built into that because it's impossible, nor we want to attempt to try and break down any specific scenario and then trying to decide, is that essential or not, right? So in a lot of ways, we're asking the students to make their best judgment as to whether or not they can or should go off campus, and they're instructed to do all the right things when they are off campus. So I can understand why that might be a bit of a gray area, but it's certainly important that all students understand that, and again that we're all on the same page. So I'm glad that you mentioned that. And then with regards to parent communication, so we have a parent email list through the registrar, and that's what we use whenever we're sending out communication, whether it's our parent newsletter that goes out once a month, or if there's communication from the op center that's going to the parents, it goes to every email that we have on that list that, again, is pulled from the registrar. If there is a name that isn't on it and you'd like it to be, the policy, and I wish I could just take it and hand it to the registrar. Unfortunately, I can't. The student would have to email the registrar and say, this is my parent's email address. Can you please include them? Because for confidentiality reasons, we can't just send information straight to a parent unless the student gives consent for that first. And if that happens, then we'll make sure that it's included in the system right away and updated for the next email that goes out.
Okay, that'd be good to advertise out to the parents' Facebook page, because they're looking for how do we get on it.
Okay, great.
No. So they just need to tell their student
Yep.
an email to registrar. That'd be great. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Great questions. Thank you, Kathy.
Sure.
One comment, thank you for this interesting presentation from this retired educator watching what's happening in schools and colleges across the country. Have to run to another Zoom meeting now. That was from Rob, so thank you to Rob. Anything else on your mind for those still with us on the call? All right. Well, thank you, everyone who's been able to join us. Thank you, Kelly, for being here. As much as is coming out to us as administrators and staff, I learned a few things. So this is super helpful. It's really been such a period of time of working together, and I think it makes all of us very proud and grateful to be part of the Siena community, and certainly share the gratitude that we are able to be back and having our students here. So thank you everybody for
Thank you, Mary Beth. I'm glad I could be here, and I'm happy to take questions one-on-one offline as well. So kodonnell@siena.edu is my email address, and feel free to reach out anytime.
Great. Thank you for that, Kelly.
Great job, Kelly. I mean,
thanks, Frank. Good seeing you.
this is really, really reassuring. It sounds like you guys are really on top of this. And I know a lot of other schools around the country are really struggling, but it sounds like Siena is in the forefront. So it's great to hear. Thank you.
Yep.
Pass it on when you're talking to your friends. So we'll be back with Saint Circle now, first Friday of each month during the semester. So our next time together will be Friday, October 2nd, and Father Larry will join us to share some thoughts on the Feast of St. Francis and our Franciscan tradition. And then also be sure you're checking our events calendar. We have a lot coming up. So almost weekly, there'll be a virtual event targeting all different areas of interest. On Tuesday night, anyone who's in a reunion class, we'll have our reunion evening via Zoom. And then on September 17th, our third Thursday event for September will be a cooking demonstration with Rachel Jones of ABI. So you have the opportunity to buy ingredients and cook along at home, and a lot more coming up. In November, I'm sorry, not November, excuse me, October, we'll have Dr. Don Levy of Siena College Research Institute on Behind the Numbers as we head into the election, and a lot more to come. So just keep up to date as you get e-news, which will be going out tomorrow, and as you get, you'll get a monthly email on events, and stay connected with us. Thank you so much, everybody. And also feel free to reach out to us anytime, alumni@siena.edu with questions. Have a great day, everybody. Have a great long weekend. Stay well, and we hope to see you next time. Take care. Thank you again, Kelly.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Bye, everybody.